what's going to happen is we're going to have people coming in slowly for a few minutes here, is my understanding, as it picks up. Once I see that we've got up to enough participants in the room, we'll start the actual presentation.
Yeah, they're coming in.
Yeah, I'm seeing we're up to 16.
Well, I see on my page, I see a community engagement meeting.
Yes, that's what you're going to see. And
Okay.
Jamalia will be
Let me get
advancing it as we go forward. Okay, I think we're probably able to get going now. We're up to 19 participants. People might come in a little bit more drifting in, but I'd like to get going because everybody's got important things to do with their time. And so let's get right underway. I'd like to welcome you to this community engagement meeting of the Fruitvale Community Land Trust. The real purpose of this meeting tonight is to give you an update on where we are with a particular project, a scattered sites project. I'm Bob Noor, I'm the secretary of the board, and I've got with me Zaid Islam, who is the chair of the board, Robin Cerniak, who is with the GPI, and she's going to talk about the city submittal and review process, and Jim Verkasi is going to talk about the project architecture. And we'd like to thank Jamalia Covington for her effort and work in helping us with this program and getting us where we're at. If we can flip to the next slide there. Well, while we're waiting for the slide itself to flip, I can just tell you what it's going to say. I wanted to start the presentation by a big overview of what the Land Trust is and what we're trying to do so that you can understand how this project fits into our mission. The Community Land Trust has a mission of creating permanent affordable housing and to generate community wealth through the collective ownership of land in the Fruit Belt. Now, what does that mean? That's really two concepts in there. One is to provide for affordable housing, to provide a place for people to live that they can afford to live and stay within the Fruit Belt if they so choose. And the second is a opportunity to build wealth through ownership, through home ownership. And those are two separate concepts. And I want to make that very clear. The project tonight, because of the basis for our funding, is a low-income housing tax credit project. Because of that, we are required to have the units be rentable units, not ownership, but rentable units for 10 years and perhaps 15. There's a legal question I have as to whether or not a land trust can maintain the permanent affordability after 10 years and not have to hold it for 15, but that's a technical question. Our long-term goal for this project is, however, to have people owning these units. In the multiple dwelling unit, they would be owned as condominiums. And on the scattered sites, they would be owned as single family or townhouse type ownership structure. It is an important concept that I think needs to be understood, because as this project is presented to you, you're going to hear about units being rented. And that doesn't fulfill the second part of our mission, which is to have ownership. So that is a tiered approach. We will get affordable housing in the belt now through this process, a lot of affordable housing. And then we will have that ownership leg, which is part of the Community Land Trust mission after the first 15 years. Do you want to go to the next slide there, Malia? I can tell you
it's having problems advancing, so I'm trying to catch up with you. It's not advancing.
Yeah, you can go on to the next one when you get a minute. And I'm just going to keep talking because I don't need the slide to say what I have to say. The other part of our mission is truly to make this a democratic vision. The belt should be telling us. The land trust shouldn't be telling the Fruit Belt what to do. The Fruit Belt neighbors, the Fruit Belt people, you should be coming out and you should be telling us what you want to see, and you should be participating. If you have a desire to get involved in the Community Land Trust, please let us know. There are ways to be involved. There's ways to help. We are here trying to do this mission. We think it's something that the neighborhood wants, But until we hear directly from you, we don't know exactly what it is that you're thinking, and we would appreciate that input. So when we get to the next slide moved along here, we're going to see a slide that shows the City of Buffalo logo, the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust logo, and a logo. Yeah, you can go down 2 more from there, right there. There you go. Of the Southern Tier Environments for Living. And the reason those 3 are on there is that is the project that we're talking about tonight, the very specific project. The City of Buffalo has allocated to the Fruit Belt Community Land Trust and the Southern Tier Environments for Living access to a number of sites throughout a 3-block area. And Robin is going to have a slide up in a couple minutes that will show you exactly where those sites are. And those sites are going to be used to develop these 50 units of affordable housing. And they will be developed, as I said, as a mixture of multiple family dwelling and single and double family homes. This is a development project that Southern Tier Environments for Living has a lot of experience at. And I know Tom, I'm not sure, I don't think Tom is actually available on the panel screen yet. So I'm going to speak for him just for a minute. Southern Tier has done these type of projects in Dunkirk and in Rochester. And Jim, and I think Robin, you were both involved in both those projects. This is a successful group. We know that they can do this work, and we feel comfortable working with the team that's been assembled. It's been a very good process to date, I believe. What I'd like to do at this point is just point out a couple of things. At the bottom of your screen, there is a question and answer button, and there's a chat button. If you have questions about the project or you have questions about the land trust, please put them in the question and answer area. I will be monitoring that area as Robin and Jim are telling you more about the project. I will be responding as I can to you directly online. And then if there are questions that we can't answer tonight, which I'm sure there will be, we will be able to get answers for you and put them out on our website in a frequently asked question format or other format. We're not going to take questions during the middle of the presentation. We want to make sure everybody gets to hear the entire presentation. That's important. But we will try to answer your questions. We certainly want to answer any questions that you have. One of the main reasons to have this presentation tonight in the format we're having it in, we would like your input. As we go to the city, as we go through the planning process that Robin's going to tell you about in a minute, we would like your input. We'd like to know what you think about the project, what you think about the development. There is one other issue which I know is going to come up, so I'm going to interlope and I'm going to talk about it now, and that's parking. And I know that parking is very critical in the Fruit Belt. In fact, the issue of parking, I think, is part of what helped coalesce the land trust, and the issue of parking is what brought a lot of neighbors together to try to find a solution. We're very sensitive to that. All of these scattered sites, all of the single and double family dwellings have their own driveways, their own parking spaces. They will not be adding to parking density in the belt. The multiple family dwelling will have some parking available to it on site. It will rely to a certain extent on street parking. And we are working with the church across the street to get a long-term agreement that will allow us to make sure that we're not impacting parking any more than we necessarily have to. So we are sensitive to parking. I want to make that very clear up front. That doesn't mean you shouldn't ask your specific questions about parking if you have them, or comments or suggestions. Please do. Please put them in the question and answer box. I think with that, I'm going to ask Robin to go to her slide, which is the project timeline slide, and just kind of walk you through the process. And then from that, we'll move on to the actual development, architectural site plan. But I think it's important for you to understand that this is a complicated process. It's a long-term process. It's something that we have been working on and will be working on for a while. So if you can pick that up, Robin, I appreciate it.
Hi, everybody. Thank you. Again, I'm Robin Cerniak. I work with Green Peterson. Bob, thank you for a nice opening. Good job there. Just in case, I wanted to let everybody know we are at our next stage. We had one meeting a month or so ago, and where we're at now on this project is that we have submitted to both the City Zoning Board of Appeals as well as the Planning Board. We had to go before the zoning board for 2 small area variances regarding some setbacks of the multifamily building, that 33-unit building. We are actually attending that meeting on February 17th. And if all goes well at that meeting, we should be on the planning board agenda for February 22nd to actually gain site plan approval of the project as a whole. After that point, we will be proceeding with construction drawings, and we'll go through all of the city permitting processes. We'll go through all the different departments, such as the Buffalo Sewer Authority, all the way down to the their fire review. After that point, there's going to be the HCR funding request for applications. That's going to be a major step here. That should be happening May of 2021. And next point would be hopefully getting some HCR funding awards in the fall of 2021. They're anticipating that financing and closing for the land transfer will happen early winter of 2022, so February of 2022, which leads us to hopefully starting construction as the spring breaks in March of 2022. And we've all been estimating that this project will be built in entirety within a year. So we're looking to complete this project in March of 2023. So Jamila, if you can go on to the next slide. I just wanted to give everybody again a quick overview of the project location. This is going to show you that we're not just concentrating on just that 33-unit multifamily building on High Street. We're also showing you all of what we refer to them as the scattered homes. We've got the number of the duplexes on Peach Street. We have single-family homes on Peach Street as well as Grape Street. We have duplexes that are going to get built at the north end of Rose Street. This is just to show you the breadth of the project here. And Jamila, if you can go on to the next slide. This is just a quick one here. This is based on the survey that my company provided. This is the existing conditions. You'll see that most of these properties are actually vacant lots. They've all been grassed. Homes have previously been demolished if they even existed in the first place. There still stands a wooden structure at the corner of High Street and Peach Street, which will be demolished as part of the project. But this again gives you the scope of the entire project area. The next slide, Jamila, is actually kind of superimposing on here and on the neighborhood view of what type of homes are going to be constructed. So again, at the kind of the southern end of the slide is the multifamily building along High Street, and then you'll see all of the single family homes encircled in the red boxes. It's a little hard for you guys to see here, but we're focusing on providing quite an array of homes in this area. Jamila, the next slide. And again, these are going to be harder for people at home to see. This is an example of the site plan of what the multifamily building is going to look like. You'll see that the building shape is in a somewhat of an L shape. We're going to provide a nice courtyard area throughout the middle. We've got a playground area that's going to be provided. We have the parking along the rear of the building. This is going to be linked with an ADA accessible sidewalk up until all of the building entrances. There's building entrances off of High Street. There's going to be a building entrance off of Peach Street. Again, everything for this structure is going to be ADA accessible. Inside the courtyard area is going to be some amenities such as patio tables, some benches. There's going to be lots of landscaping, site lighting. The playground area is going to be fenced in. So that's just a little quick overview of what the multifamily complex is going to look like. Jamila, if you can, yep, there you go. So this is a series of 3-bedroom duplexes as well as a 2-bedroom duplex nestled in between here along Peach Street, between 212 and 222 Peach Street. So there's existing 6 lots of Buffalo property that's going to be taken over and actually going to recreate each individual new parcel as based on the the ownership of the individual buildings. But again, it's going to be hard for you guys to see, but I just wanted to give a brief view of what the site design is actually going to be looking like. Jamila, if you can go on to the next one. This is an example of a single family home. So again, you have a nice as a driveway area for parking, sidewalk access. The single family homes are ADA accessible. The duplexes will not be. They'll have front porches with some stairs, especially along Rose Street. But we've got plenty of backyard area. You're going to have porches front and back. This is going to be a nice area. So Jamila, I think, oh, I went through quickly. Now we're up to Jim's take on everything.
All right, hi, Jim VeCasey from SWBR. We're an architecture firm out of Rochester. And I'm just gonna try and give you all a little bit more detailed breakdown of what the development entails. So if we start with the next slide, here's a little bit more of a prettier version of a site plan. And we want to highlight, you can see the scattered sites, you can see the multifamily building. And to give you an idea of how that breaks down, it's 50 units in total. The apartment building, the multifamily building will have 33 units within it. It's 3 stories. The scattered sites will make up the other 17 units for the project. And as that works out, we have 2 2-bedroom duplexes, 10 3-bedroom duplexes, and 5 single-family houses, what we're calling in. And I'll walk through what each of those building types looks like. They're along Peach, Rose, and Grape Street. There's a smattering of them on each street. The overall, project-wise, we have about almost a 50-50 ratio between what will be 1-bedroom apartment units versus multi-bedroom, so either 2 or 3-bedroom units. So it's a rather even split that we think matches the kind of need for the neighborhood. We're not just providing 1-bedroom units. We're providing some with scale so that we can have families move into the neighborhood is really the goal, I think, to kind of develop that community need in the area. If you would, I'll talk, yep, again. So here's a zoom in on the multifamily building. Again, it's a 3-story building. It has 33 units in it. It's a mix of 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom. Due to the constraints of the site and just to get as much as we can into that building, it's mostly 1-bedroom units, which stack up nicely. But there is about a 1/3, 2/3 split. So there are some 2 bedrooms in there. As Robin mentioned, there is parking. There is some courtyard, playground amenity space. The building itself will be accessible, so that it can be entered from, I think, both High Street and the rear of the building via either a ramp or, and then inside internally, it's serviced by an elevator. So again, the building as a whole is fully accessible, which would be great for anyone who needs to move into this area to be able to pick and choose and not just be kind of pigeonholed into a single location. If we want to go to the next slide. So here, we'll start with an overview of what is the multifamily building, as it is kind of the anchor of the development of the area off the High Streets. So this is a view from High and Peach. You can see the 3-story building. A lot of what has kind of gone into the look of this comes from the city of Buffalo itself and their green code, which dictates a lot based on how your lots are zoned, what is an allowable use and building type for these areas. So the lots at the corner of Peach and High allow for what they call either a commercial building or commercial block or a stacked unit. The names are kind of insignificant. They're a little bit of a misnomer, but they have their requirements in terms of how much transparency and glazing you need at the first floor versus the upper floors. They have requirements for the amount of continuous blank walls. They require floor-to-floor heights and whatnot. And so for this specific lot, the green code is really pushing you towards the look of a kind of mixed-use kind of neighborhood commercial building that you can see up and down High Street. You know, once you get down towards the medical centers, those buildings are much larger. But as you drift within the few blocks of each of this site, there are many examples of a building that is of this type. And it's supposed to look like kind of a commercial storefront, you know, where you'd have a shop back in the day, you know, a grocery store or a hardware store, and then living space above it. So we're trying to take the large building. It's not larger than, you know, say the residential houses behind it, and break it down so there's a few different volumes with either color or shape, and pushing things in and out so that it doesn't appear to be as big. If you can go to the next slide. So here is a floor plan view showing the first floor, and it's a small scale, but what's important to highlight is that on that High Street side, you have a lot of kind of public serving spaces and amenities, a management office, a community room, a laundry facility, public toilets and whatnot, so that there is, when you enter the building, you're presented with a kind of community area that the residents can all kind of congregate in and run into each other. It's not just a densely packed core of apartment units. As you move up to the building, so if we look at the next floor, actually, I think the next slide is an enlarged view. So there's an enlarged view of the first floor. You can see at the bottom of the page is the entry along High Street. And we have an office room and the community room. We're showing, you know, trash recycling, bike storage even, so laundry facilities. So this is the type of kind of community spaces that are provided within this building specifically. You go to the next slide. It is the second floor. So as we move up the building, we have more apartment space available for everybody. The third floor, the next floor up, is similar. So if you go to the next slide, again, not much of a change. Again, it's a lot of apartment units, but we'll highlight in the next slide that there's an office space in the corner. I think it's right now pegged for Fruitvale Community Land Trust to use as office space, but a different tenant could use the space. I've also tried to highlight here, either in blue and yellow, what the typical unit layouts are. They're fairly straightforward. You enter into kind of a common area of your unit where you have your bathroom and your kitchen open to a living dining room area and a bedroom. And obviously the two-bedroom unit has a little bit of extra corridor space in a second bedroom. If you want to go to the next slide. So here is a colored elevation we've worked up. This is along High Street. So you can see towards the middle of the building is where the main entry is. There's a kind of storefront look heading to the left-hand side of the page with the apartment units above it. It's got a brick base. It has a fiber cement siding, upper floors. There's some canopies to provide some accent to the streetscape, so it does look like that kind of mixed-use project. You go to the next slide. These are the elevations. The bottom one, the long one, is the elevation along Peach Street. There's quite a bit of grade change along from High Street heading up any of our side streets, but here on Peach Street. So the height of the building at High Street is actually taller as at the street than it is at the back from Peach, which is mainly because there's 6+ feet of grade that we've climbed in elevation. The other two elevations are just simple rear elevations. They're much simpler in nature. There's a lot of effort to focus your attention and effort into getting those street facades done up well. All right, the next slide. So here we're going to go walk through quickly the scattered sites. There is what we're calling a single family house. There are two different duplex types, which are similar in nature. To give the folks in the community an idea of kind of the scale of what these buildings are like, I was looking through the buildings you have in your neighborhood. They're commonly a 25 to 30 foot wide building that's 2.5 stories, depending on how you want to count the attic space. Our buildings are similar in size. The single family building here that we're showing is actually narrower. It's maybe only 25-ish feet wide, and it's a 1-story building, so it fits within the concept. Our duplexes are a little bit wider. They're, say, 35 feet wide, but again, only 2.5 stories. So as the neighborhood gets to be developed, these houses are going to be representative of what's already there existing in the area. So to what we're seeing, on the plan before, if you go back a slide, it is the single family house. It is a flat, shall we say. It's all on 1 story. There's a very nice entry porch. You enter into a kitchen, living, dining room area, and there are 3 bedrooms in this unit. And to the rear of the building, you can see that there's a large accessible bathroom. Since this unit is all at grade, there's a lot of space to allow for turning radiuses and clearances needed for the accessibility. If you go to the next slide, you can go to the elevation. You can see what is a front elevation and a side elevation. So these are really nice buildings. We're showing color-wise. Again, you'll see different colors on the various scattered sites. We're using a fiber cement lap siding. It's meant to look like, a clapboard sided building. It's not vinyl, it's fiber cement. It's much nicer and kind of richer material. And there's a smattering of colors we can choose from. We selected 3 nice ones that we liked. However, I think as we progress, we can refine what those are, and that there will be different ones. So we won't have 17 red houses landing in your neighborhood. You'll have a whole mixture that's reflective of what you have now. But again, I think the really nice thing about the duplexes and single family house for these is they all have this really nice kind of rich entry porch that's really inviting, a nice place to sit. It's a nice part of what exists in your neighborhood already. So if we go to the next slide, this would be the 2-bedroom duplex. And so what you're looking at is it's a symmetrical. So you have 1 unit on one hand, and on the opposite hand of the plan is a second unit. And so there's 2 units smashed together next to each other, but they are individual. Each of these units would have their own driveway, their own utilities, their own entry. So they're separate, just they happen to be next to each other under 1 roof. If that makes any sense. So you can see on the first floor, again, similar, a beautiful entry porch. You enter into a living dining space. You have a kitchen, a powder room, some storage. And then if you go up to the second floor, that's where you have all the bedrooms. In this case, it's 2 bedrooms with a shared bathroom in between. The 3-bedroom duplex has 3 bedrooms upstairs. If you go to the next slide, we can look at the elevation. So again, a front and side. So you can see the nice porch, the individual entries for each unit. Scale-wise, height-wise, similar to what's in the neighborhood now. There's a lot of 2-story residences that have a sloped roof to them. You go to the next slide. This is the 3-bedroom duplex. It's very similar to what we previously looked at for the 2-bedroom duplex. It's a little bit deeper, I believe. It's roughly the same width. And I think the main difference is that on the second floor, you have 3 bedrooms and still have a single bathroom up there, but there's 3 bedrooms. I think there's a powder room down on the first floor that can be shared. The next slide would show the elevations again, very similar. They're all kind of a similar typology to fit within the neighborhood, but a nice entry porch. The scale of the building is broken down a little bit by having 1 unit sit further away from the street than the other to get a little bit of a recess and a jog in the building. And I think that might be it for my slides. We can go to the next one. Yeah, that's a quick walkthrough for what we're proposing for the development of this neighborhood.
Okay. We've got a number of questions through the question function, and I appreciate that. A couple of them I did answer directly because they were just kind of smaller questions. There was one that asked how many variances will be needed for the project, and there will be a few that are needed. And I would like to see if Robin can respond to that, but I don't know. Jemaya, can we let Robin share her screen?
Or Jamila, or if you go back to one of my slides.
I think she opened it up for you to share.
Yeah, you can share.
Oh, okay. It stops, it's telling me that it stops your share if I do
That's
that.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
go ahead.
All right. Give me two
So the question
seconds
was,
here.
are there variances? And if you remember, this is on a corner lot, and some of this might have to do with that, but I'm going to let Robin talk through what will be the issues.
Okay. I asked to share because I wanted to be able to bring up a little bit so you guys can actually see how close we are. If you are able to follow the mouse on my screen at all,
Yep.
this is the north line of lot 179 Peach Street, which extends all the way down to this very lightly dashed line through the northern end of our multifamily building. We actually need two small area variances. The first variance is for the rear yard setback. The city of Buffalo is viewing our project for this multifamily building in terms of both N2R zoning and the N2E zoning. We are combining parcels through the city's consolidation process, but we are not changing zoning. So we're looking at the most restrictive constraints of the zoning code that we're in here. And under the N2R zoning, which 179 Peach Street is, the rear yard setback needs to be 15% of the lot depth. The city of Buffalo is looking at our lot depth as this entire piece of approximately 170 feet along Peach Street, which puts us at needing about a 26-foot long wide rear yard. We're offering up just over 7 feet. This is in order to maximize the building footprint to make this project feasible. So excuse me, we approached the city for an area variance from the 26-foot required rear yard setback to a little over 7 feet. The second,
And might I add that this is partially because, as Robin mentioned, they're considering that setback off a rear setback off of High Street. If you were to individually develop that lot as a standalone lot off of Peach Street, it would actually be a side setback, which has a different set of requirements that we fall much more in line with, I believe. So again, this is part of the reason for the variance is kind of the odd nature in which the city is processing how we're dealing with the property.
exactly. The second area variance that we're going for is going for the lot width. Along High Street, there's actually 5 parcels that are being combined, which gives us a total lot width of approximately 134 feet. The city is looking at the front lot width under the N2E zoning requirements. Most of the front of High Street is zoned N2E, which gives us the requirement of having a lot width of only 120 feet. So we exceed that. So that's the second area variance that we are requesting, is to have a total lot width of 134 feet versus the required maximum of 120 feet.
Are those the only variances, Rob?
At this time, yes, they've gone through the plans. They've looked at what we've submitted. I haven't heard of anything else popping up. We are proceeding to the meeting next week with two variance requests.
Okay. Another question we had was, where is the parking for the building? If you could just point that out, that would be helpful.
Okay. Again, this is the multifamily. Along here is High Street. This is Grape Street here. Our parking is 8 parking stalls, 1 handicapped, with an entrance exit onto Grape Street. And that parking area is at the northeast corner of the multifamily building.
And as I said, we are also negotiating for parking across High Street at the Zion Church over there.
And yeah, go ahead.
I don't think you can get to it from there.
No, I can't show it on this slide. So, and I don't have that quick enough to be shown. So,
Okay. And then another question that was, I'm not sure where this came from because I'm not familiar with this, but there was a question about whether there was a discussion of making a garden at 207 Grape Street. I don't know if that is something that we had in our plans. It seems like it's a pretty big lot to be used as a garden. I'm not sure what would.
Right, that's actually the width of almost two normal sized city lots, and I've never heard that request before. I don't know if Zaid or anybody from the Fruit Belt has, but I've never heard that request before.
Okay, well, we'll take
Can
that
we-
up with the person.
Yeah,
that
can we
asked
just
it.
pull up a plan just so we can see which lot it is
Yep.
that we're talking about?
Give me 2 seconds here. This is actually
Right here.
Perfect.
So this is lot
Okay.
207 on Grape. We were just looking at lot for the multifamily building, but this is the size of actually, if you let me zoom in a little bit here, 207 is almost two lots in one.
Yeah.
It's got the biggest width frontage of any of these lots.
Okay, we'll keep that in mind. I'm not sure where that came from. Maybe I can respond to her directly. There was another question, and I don't know, Tom, if you're able to answer this or if you're able to come off mute there, but
Just
go ahead.
This is let me go back to lot 207. That question came in from probably Miss Jennifer Jones, who I said we could discuss that at a later date
Okay,
if we didn't need to use the lot. And she had mentioned to me perhaps a community garden, and I said we would consider it, but we had not committed to that. So that's where that question is coming from.
okay. And we certainly have tried to keep an open mind as we process through this. There are certain requirements that we have, units we need to meet, et cetera. So thank you for that, giving us a little bit of background on that. But Tom, I was getting ready to say, one of the other questions I had was how will the tenants be screened? And I can speak to a little bit of that in terms of the income requirements. We are dealing with a low-income housing tax credit project, so we will be looking at some percentage of the average mean income or the area medium income. Those are figures that are set by county. People asked before where they come from. For this particular project, they're by county. We as a land trust also have our own internal resale numbers that would deal with making sure that people are being served within that percentage of the average income. But in terms of the actual tenants that will be coming in, I don't know, Tom, if there is any further. I know that there is a process. I know that we will be taking applications and processing tenants and et cetera. But is there anything more you can say to that? I'm not sure you're even able to come off and mute at this point. I'm not seeing it. I will look into that a little further, make sure that that particular question gets responded to in a frequently asked question response. All of these questions, people should look to the website as we go forward, and as we get more questions and answers, we will be trying to combine them into something that you can look to. Hopefully this presentation itself will be up on the website in the near future. This is being recorded. So that's always an opportunity as well that we may be able to make available to people. Those basically, there was a question, and this is really not something for this meeting, so maybe we can talk about it later, but I'll just mention it now so people realize we did hear it. There's a question about whether there's any help for landlords that have houses near high-end Grape to have the house update and to make sure the area is updated. That's a question about the land trust involvement in rehab for other people's homes that we don't own. We did have a discussion with regard to some of the financing that we're going to be able to get, maybe being able to use that to help rehab existing homes owned by others, but we won't really have a definite answer on that. Do keep in touch, look at our website, and certainly if we get a program, we'll put it out there. Zaid, you look like you want to say something, or is that just me? I don't know. I don't have any other questions in the, wait, maybe one of them came in. We have a question, what's the planned cost for the duplex apartments? And again, that is going to go through the New York State. There is a requirement that it be set at a certain portion of income. I don't know what the answer is now, and it will depend on what the numbers are. The census has changed and the the mean average income changes. We have 2020 numbers, but they aren't necessarily going to be applied to this project. We will try to put that up. I think that's a very good question and one that probably deserves its own response in a frequently asked question. So we will try to do that. And that's all the questions that we have. I don't have anything else here. There's no other questions in the chat. There's no other questions in the Q&A. So unless you have questions, I think, Tom, you're connecting. I can see you trying to connect.
That's what I was just going to point out, Bob. I don't know if Tom wanted to speak at all.
Well, he's trying to connect, so we'll give him a second. And if he can connect, he can speak. I do appreciate everybody's effort in putting the presentation together. It does take a lot to get these things lined up, to get communications out to the neighborhood, etc. And I do encourage everyone in the neighborhood to please continue to communicate with us.
Bob, one of the other questions I saw that came through was asking if this is the same plan that was sent out by the city as part of the ZBA meeting.
Yes, I responded to that one directly.
Okay, okay.
But yes, that's a good point. You may have received notice, people are listening in, you may have received a separate notice from the city, which is required. This particular presentation and session we're having is not legally required, but we felt it was appropriate to put this out there to try to get further input. But you would have received, if you live within, I believe it's 400 feet of the project site, you would have received a notice that it is going in front of the ZBA and inviting you to participate. And I believe that meeting will be online as well. Although I'm not sure how you participate online with the ZBA. I'm not familiar with that at this point.
Okay, I made to make sure I wasn't still muted. They do offer up just similar to this, like a question and answer period after our presentation. The planning board is going to do that as well. And then I believe there are only a certain amount of time that the public is allowed to speak, and then decisions will be made from there. So the major site plan process too, I believe, is going to have a public hearing for this. So there'll be a second chance for the public to speak on this project.
Yeah, the planning board will open a hearing. They'll open a hearing on this and discuss the seeker and other issues when it gets to them as well. I see Tom's trying to connect, but unfortunately, apparently he's not. Make it in. So I guess unless there's something else and anyone else that is connected wants to add, I think we should let people go home and enjoy their dinner.
Yep, that's exactly what I was going to say.
Dave, what do you think?
There he
There you
goes.
go.
Did I unmute?
Nope,
Yes, you
you're
did.
good. Anything else
Okay.
you want to?
Nope, that's it. I mean,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Jamila. If you could take us off of the meeting.